Hello my friends. Yep, another S1R Mark II video. I don't know if you guys realise, but this thing can actually take photos as well, and it's pretty bloody good at it. This shoot reminded me that this camera was built for photos and is darn good at it. This was a fashion editorial shoot. Just me, a model, natural light, no modifiers or reflectors or anything. Just testing how much I could push the S1R Mark II, push its dynamic range, test its autofocus on backlit moving subjects and everything else. So let's dive into it. What blew me away initially was how much detail the camera was able to capture in like the skin, the hair, even with such a strong backlight from the sunset. Highlights were smooth, blacks were rich, and skin tones felt alive without shifting too far either way between magenta and green. Now the autofocus, it was fine. It was better than I thought it would be, especially shooting directly into the backlit sunset. It wasn't Sony level, but it is the closest it's ever been to being on Sony level. I find I'm drawn to using the viewfinder more than a lot of my recent digital cameras. I don't know if it's the clarity of the viewfinder or what, but it's forcing me to slow down and shoot more intentionally, much like I do with like a film camera. Now I am reviewing this camera in the eyes of a portrait photographer, but obviously, you know, loving videography, I've got to also just talk about how easy it was to just flick to video mode and get these awesome visuals that is obviously what I'm showing throughout this video, but will also be its own video on social media just because it's more than, you can switch to video so easily and get behind the scenes, except it's so much more than behind the scenes. Like, it is just awesome, like cinema camera level footage that you can just get from a flick of a switch while doing a portraiture shoot with a photo first camera. Now let's jump over to Lightroom and I can talk about editing these photos. Editing the raw photos is a dream. There's just so much latitude, especially in the shadows, and you can just get so much out of these files. You can go filmic, high fashion, moody. The inbuilt profiles are really good foundations to build off. I've always, with like my Sony cameras, I've always built a separate, completely separate preset or whatever that doesn't use any of the sort of, you know, it's either Adobe color or like another profile to start off with, where I've noticed with my Panasonic photos, I've been actually building off one of their profiles and still getting my like sort of signature look. So that's been super handy and a little bit quicker. This shoot reminded me why I started portraiture in the first place. Just the light, the motion, the storytelling. This isn't just resolution for the sake of resolution, it's usable detail and flexibility and latitude. When you do, you know, lift the shadows, pull back the highlights, the images don't crumble as quickly as some other sensors I've used. I honestly think Panasonic's color science doesn't get the love that it should. Like, it does lean to magenta a lot of the times, but there's just like a detailed softness to the skin that just kind of naturally gives that kind of editorial look straight off the raws, and it's just such a good base to start your edit with. This obviously wasn't a perfect setup, it wasn't a studio, it was just me, the model, the horse, natural light, and a tool that just let me tell the story without getting in the way. So, you know, if you have an S1R Mark II and you've just been using it for video and you've probably been loving it, don't sleep on the photography side of it. Like, take it out on a portraiture shoot because it'll remind you that, yeah, it's Panasonic's photo camera, so doesn't muck around. If you're a hybrid shooter that cares just as much about portraiture as you do video, I feel like this camera is just the perfect in between. Like, I think there's, you know, obviously some cameras with high resolution, their autofocus might be a tiny bit better, but then their video capabilities are nowhere near. So if you're someone that just loves portraiture, loves video, loves to do both at once, like, I don't think you can go past this camera in particular. If you're into more like real world tests like this and just diving into certain pieces of equipment in this way that's a bit more informal and just my general thoughts, feel free to, you know, drop a like, drop a comment, subscribe, because there's a lot more coming. I've got the Blackmagic Pixis 12K coming that I'll be slamming a lot of videos on, and a few other things. So I'll see you in the next one.